This is Patiently. My name is Christian Fletcher Walker, and our guest today is Paul Bassett. Paul is 36. He lives in Cornwall, works for a Cornish clothing company, loves football, snowboarding, music, and film, and has been with his wife for about 18 years now. Today, you obviously know the Patiently podcast is going over the subject of IVF at the moment. And we're going to be talking to Paul about a guy's perspective of the IVF journey, which really interestingly, when I was talking to Paul a few weeks ago, I was actually quite shocked as to how different it is for a guy to a girl in Paul's perspective. But, you know, we talked to Paul's wife, Sarah, in the previous episode. If you haven't listened to that, go and listen to it. They were trying for 6 months. And sadly, the first cycle didn't work. The second cycle has worked. And so, you know, now we're going to have a chat to Paul. So, Paul, welcome to Patiently.
Hi, Christian. How are you?
Very well, thank you, mate. Very well. And I will tell everyone else as well that I've known Paul since I was probably 4 or 5. I think we've known each other about that long.
I think that's about right. Yeah, I think it was playgroup when we first met, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So there's all sorts of fun stories from the last, you know, God knows how many years that we've known each other. But actually, you know,
yeah, definitely.
Paul, I think I said to Sarah the other week when I was talking to her that when we were at our friend Adam's and you said that you'd been through IVF and then I read Sarah's post, I was genuinely shocked as to the journey you guys have been through. I know journey sounds a bit corny, but it really has been. It's been a bit difficult. But you've got a very different perspective on the IVF road. I don't think you've found it too comfortable, have you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the emotional side of it, going through it with Sarah and things like that, I think you're absolutely right. It has been a journey because you assume these things just happen, and you know, when you've decided to do it, it happens, and you plan your life to have a family, and then obviously there's blockers in the way and things like that. You know, it doesn't happen straight away, but I think from mine and Sarah's point of view, we've been very open with each other, and it's just been, I've been there to support her more than anything. But from a medical point of view, it's very strange. I mean, the first thing that I would say is that as a bloke on this journey, you're not really interacted with very much. And of course, I understand the side of things that it is the female that grows the baby, and obviously her health and the baby's health is massively important, and she goes through the changes and the imbalances and all the different things like that. I totally understand that, but you're the main source of support for that person, and you're often made to feel like you're just tagging on, whether also the fact that you can be quite patronized, and I have found a lot of time.
I'm genuinely shocked by that. Like, you know, I'd have thought that there'd be a level of empathy that's like, you know, you guys can't make this work together, sadly, you know, scientifically and from a biology point of view. But to hear that you're almost, you know, not really welcome in many conversations. I mean, is that, you know, to challenge it slightly, is that a really fair view, do you think? Or did Sarah come out and sort of look at you saying, was it me, or were they being, you know, a little bit pushing you aside there?
I think it's a difficult one because, like, it wasn't. Sarah didn't notice it sort of instantly, but after a couple of meetings and sort of retrospectively, I think at first, obviously, she's taking all the information in from that meeting, and we're chatting about it as we're, you know, going back to the car or whatever. And I think retrospectively, since I mentioned it to her, she's kind of gone, yeah, actually, they didn't really talk to you. Right. Any question that you ask is answered to her.
Right.
And then, you know, I'm a normal bloke, and as most blokes do, you know, you don't really think about the family side of things until it happens, till that conversation comes up. So you quite almost think like any questions you ask are stupid. Any questions that you ask are, you know, you're always looked at as, what an idiot, you should know that.
Right.
And it's really odd because I mean, I don't know if you found this at school as well, but when you're growing up and you have sex ed at school and stuff like that, and as far as I was concerned, you could accidentally bump elbows with a girl and she'd get pregnant. So
There was quite an emphasis,
have,
wasn't there, on
yeah,
don't do it, and make sure you're wearing a condom. All
yeah,
this, but yeah,
exactly.
I
You
can't
were
imagine what it's
terrified
like.
into. Yeah, you're terrified into thinking that you could get any girl pregnant, and obviously if you grow up you realise that isn't the case. But when you decide to have a family and all of a sudden it doesn't work, you're like, hang on a second, this isn't as easy as you first thought. And I mean, just from our conversation we had the other day, I suppose my aha moment would be the fact that it isn't that easy. It's like 2 days a month, and everything has to fall in line, and and it is actually quite precise. I mean, it does surprise me when a lot of people get pregnant on the first go on a one night stand or something like that. I mean, the chances are crazy.
I mean, the comparison, the polar opposites of someone accidentally on a one night stand versus a loving couple.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
trying for 6 months. It's like, what's going on? It's a bit baffling, really.
And so you have that sort of built into you as you were growing up as a lad, and in our generation that happens. And my I don't know how you felt it as well, but obviously my parents had me when they were very, very young, so there was almost that you need to be careful kind of thing when you're younger, which has always been instilled in me.
So it was all fine and straightforward for your mum and dad, as far as you're aware.
Yeah. Just, as far as I'm aware, I don't think there's any issues there with obviously me and my brothers.
Yeah.
But interestingly, my brother has also had to go down the IVF route as well. So I mean, I don't know whether.
I think we'll try and have a chat with him at some point in the future and see if has his experience been the same as yours?
Well, as brothers tend to, you don't really talk too much about that type of thing, because obviously he did it before I did, and he was explaining all the things. As there's injections, there's different drugs, and you have to do certain things, and there's ICSI and there's blast, and there's the different ways of doing it. But when it's not, this will probably sound bad, but when it's not happening to you, you kind of listen, but you don't take it all in. Then when you have these conversations and you're looking at all the leaflets and the information, what you read online, it all starts to make sense. But I don't know whether he found the same thing as well, but obviously the emphasis, rightly so for the medical point of view, is obviously on the woman. She's the one that has to have she's the one that has to have the injection, she's the one that has to have the drugs, obviously uncomfortable things put in uncomfortable places and scans and things like that. But it's funny how all of that kind of builds itself up to you sort of sat there almost as if this is your fault. I mean, weirdly, in this case, it was actually me that had the issue.
Right.
One thing I would definitely like to raise as a point from a male point of view, in my circumstance, that obviously it's my fault, but I'm the one that had the issue, is that there is a lot of guilt. That,
but I've been thinking for a little while, how do I ask these sorts of questions for you, because they're really
again, it's a difficult thing to bring up, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you suddenly find out that it's not working naturally, and you have that conversation and go, okay, well, we need to be referred and have IVF. And then you are sitting there in that first meeting and they're talking about the 100-odd injections and the pills that I got at the bum and everything else that somebody else has to go through because you're not working.
Was there any sort of plan of action for you? I mean, if I may ask, and you don't have to answer, I mean, is it just a low count, or is there nothing, or what is it?
So on the flip side of what I said this morning, a little bit earlier, was obviously from the point of when we realised that we weren't conceiving, and obviously went to my local GP to explain it and things like that. The advice and the help and the sort of process that we actually got from that side of things was really helpful. So I have a normal sperm count, but I only have 3% active.
Oh, right.
And they're also pretty lazy. apparently as well.
Yeah.
So
Well, I know whether they must
obviously
get that from you, clearly.
yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, it must be for me. Yeah, but you know that from that side of things was good. You know, you had the specimen tests, and obviously they check you health wise, and obviously the advice obviously for males, as you know, is obviously to eat a bit better. So I was cutting out caffeine as much as I could. I mean, I don't really drink a lot anyway, but
Right.
I went down to drinking alcohol-free beer.
Right.
Taking lots of supplements just to I'm fairly healthy anyway, but just trying to really help that side of things.
Did that have any effect?
A little bit, yeah. It was really funny because I think I had about 4 or 5 tests in the end, and one test was super low on the count, and after I think it was about 3 or 4 months of the vitamins and the cutting certain things out, it went back up again. And then I think it was the test before we decided we need to do IVF, it dropped right down again. And I was still doing all the things that I was before. So I think it was, I don't know, it's just nature that you know, you try to do as much as you possibly can, but it's you know, it's down to how you, I suppose, how you genetically made up, and it wasn't quite working.
I mean, I was going to ask you, just interesting, you made that comment, but would there be anything that you would say to anyone else that's planning or thinking of having a child? Like, would you say, if you really want this, then, you know, stack all the favors in your side, start eating healthy and look into it and all of this kind of stuff? I mean, because it won't have been very comfortable since finding out, and then the rest of the journey.
Yeah, it's funny, but it sounds really obvious, but you gotta look after yourself. So you know, I eat a lot of rubbish and things like that as well. But when we had this, it started. You just think, you know, let's just make sure you've got yourself. You know, I play football 3 or 4 times a week. I go wakeboarding whenever I can and things like that. So I keep myself pretty healthy. But yeah, it's just the obvious things, really. You know,
it's funny, isn't it? A healthy, active, normal lifestyle, and there's still, you know, there's no guarantees.
Yeah, well, exactly. So I don't think there's anything revolutionary in what I'm saying in terms of that, in terms of like looking after yourself. I mean, definitely, for one, if you smoke, just kill that.
Yeah, right.
Even if you're not having kids, just kill that anyway, because it's just an idiotic thing to do. But yeah, it's you know, it's diet and things like that. But obviously, as you can see from myself, you do all that and you look after yourself, and it still doesn't work. So I think sometimes it's just down to your body. You know, you want to give yourself every single possible chance of being able to conceive. But then when it doesn't happen, I mean, you can't. I don't blame myself. You can't help what your body does.
No.
You know, you can't stop yourself being colorblind if you're colorblind just by taking a few tablets. So you know, it is what it is. But then I think if it was me that had the issue, and then it's me that has to go and do the injections and take the drugs and go through all the uncomfortable scans and all that type of thing, you'd be like, okay, it's my body's letting me down, or letting us down in this situation. You go ahead with it. But when it's because of you and you have to watch your wife go through that, it's hard. That's actually quite hard. And I don't actually think she knows that it was really, really hard for me to see her doing that. You know, as you know me for a long time,
you didn't have those conversations?
Well, I didn't think it would be being supportive.
Okay,
you know,
right.
I think, you know, she.
By the way,
you know what I mean? Like,
like
she's going, oh my God, that injection really hurt this morning. I feel a bit woozy. Well, I actually feel really bad too. You know, that doesn't quite. and you know what I'm like. You know me for a long time. I would always try and put a humorous spin on something, even if something's really bad and something's going on. I think that's my my way of dealing with things, and being there for Sarah and trying to make sure she's as comfortable and happy as possible. And you know, you just have to.
But you also
make
have
sure
to look
you know
after yourself. I mean, you know, since feeling guilty and feeling terrible every time she's feeling terrible, I mean, that's like a double negative. I mean, Sarah was saying some of the worst parts is the waiting. You know, waiting for this test and then the result.
Oh yeah, I mean that.
But I'm just, you know, the psychological side. Was there much support or offered for you to, you know, just talk through it, with the structure and so on?
Yeah, not really. I mean, from the support side of things, I mean, I'm really lucky because Sarah is amazing. She knows, she can tell straight away if I'm not happy about something, and or if something's not right. And I feel the same with her. And we're not people that go out and tell the world about different things like that, which is why she had a very private Instagram account. She wanted to tell her story, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
But we have each other, and we didn't really. We have got lots of really, really close friends who would be so supportive, but we're not the type of people that go and talk to everyone. So we had each other, and in that respect, she did have my back in everything, and I hope that you have to ask. I hope that I had her back all through this as well. But there isn't any. No one tells you this when you go through the IVF. No one tells you if it's both of your problem, then you can both kind of understand and talk about it, or if it's just one. Sarah is perfectly healthy, perfectly normal. Everything about her works.
Yeah.
And it's just you're not told about that. I mean, I'm not sitting here and saying I'm crying myself to sleep with guilt and things like that as well. But it is really hard.
There's something there that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely. And you're not really prepared for that. I mean, the only person that I would say that was genuinely very, very supportive along this whole journey, and he was probably the most understanding person, is one of the IVF nurses at Trelisk. I don't know, am I allowed to say her name? Or
well, I don't see why not. I think it's a good thing.
Her name's Debbie, and she was amazing. Not only supporting Sar, but she would actually say, how are you? How's things? There's certain times where Sar had to quickly nip off to the loo and give a sample and what have you, and it was just the two of us sat in the room. I've sat there with consultants and they've not even looked up from their computer until Sarah's come back in the room. But she, I would like to single her out to say she was fantastic. She always spoke to me.
Yeah. Always
asked how I was, and there was always a conversation. But I could have been in a room with a certain consultant and shook Sarah's hand. She sat, and then I just had to come and sit behind her as if I was like a minder or a security guard or something, and not even acknowledged.
Well, I mean, in those situations, I can see that, yes, there should be this level of engage the husband. I mean, what would you? I mean, if you had you may have done it like a feedback form, or if you were sat with someone who was head of this department that was looking at, what would you say? What could they do? I mean, is it just as simple as just acknowledge them a little bit more and answer the questions to them? I mean, is that basically it, or do you have a few more things you'd want them to do?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, and obviously, sort of, since you sent me over the information for this chat we were going to have, you said you sort of think about it a little bit more. And of course, I'm not stupid enough to not understand the fact that the NHS is incredibly busy, and the fact that they have a lot of appointments and there's a lot of things going on. So the consultants and things have to be to the point. I totally understand that, and I wouldn't want any medical professional to sugarcoat stuff or be too fluffy and not give you the information that you need. But I think what they have to understand, just to use your words again, that is a journey, but it's not just one person on that journey. It's two people on that journey. One person is going through a lot of physical changes and mental. The other person is going through mental changes, which if we all know anything about mental health being brought to the foray at the moment,
well, it's a big thing at the moment, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly, and it really is, and it you almost spend all your. I focused on making sure that Sarah was okay, and I was trying to pay as much attention. But the way I tried to break into it, because the more I noticed it, the more it was quite frankly irritating me. I would ask a question. I would usually ask a question that I already knew the answer to as well.
Right.
Because obviously we would talk about stuff before we went into meetings, but quite often the question would be answered to Sarah. That person would look at me, hear me say the question, and then they would turn and answer it to Sarah.
Okay.
And it was at that point where you don't want to stand there with this delicate situation anyway and start going, "Are you going to talk to me?" Because that's just a totally wrong thing to do. But I certainly think it should be raised. The fact of it should be raised and brought to the front that there's two people on a journey quite often.
And also, in your words, you feeling that it, not that it's a fault, but feeling that it's your fault, that actually you're struggling with the whole thing a little bit, really, as well, rather than, I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah, we should, like, I was thinking about this the other day, like, when we first decided to have kids, if everything worked naturally, we should have a 3-year-old girl or boy now.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas,
yeah.
And things will be going nicely, thank the Lord, Star's 5 months pregnant now, and everything's going along okay. But and to her point as well, the thing that she was going through, it's just that waiting. They're waiting between different things, and waiting, between results. We're waiting for phone calls, waiting for after Sarah obviously had her miscarriage. Waiting for things to go back to normal before you can try again.
Yeah.
It's not as if, oh, good Lord, we've had a miscarriage. It's horrendous. Let's get on and move over that. Let's hop back into bed and make another one. It isn't that simple.
No.
And I didn't feel. I don't know how Sarah feels about this, but I certainly didn't feel that anyone prepared you for that. Anyone prepares you for not only the fact that you're going through like the waiting, all these different things, but also the fact that your partner is getting this anxiety of waiting. I mean, the last time we did the transfer, we actually went away to Ireland. We were like, because we had a couple of weeks off work, we were like, I can't do this just sitting around at home thinking, is this working? And Sarah worrying about every tiny little twinge, everything's happening. We actually went away on holiday to take our minds off it, because it was horrible. And no one does talk to you about the waiting. And from my point of view, worrying about your partner and the waiting.
So what would you tell someone in, let's say someone's in your shoes, exactly your shoes? I mean, what would you be saying to them now? I mean, get prepared for a lot of waiting, would you tell them to get counseling, or just at least confide in a friend or someone that they can actually just talk to get that support? Because it sounds to me that would have helped a little bit.
I think so. I mean, I've written it down here as a note, and the main thing I would say is just speak up. Right. Just I know that everyone's partners will be supportive of them, as Sarah was to me, very much so. And again, I almost feel guilty, like saying that she's been supportive of me when she's gone through all the injections and the drugs and the hormones and everything else. And that seems silly that I'm almost feeling guilty for saying that now as well. But she does acknowledge that from my point of view, not really heard. But my advice would definitely be, ask all those questions. Yeah. Any of those questions that you think are silly, that people might know about. Because you don't know something, it doesn't make you feel stupid, and especially to a medical professional. You have to stand there, and I'm quite a bolshy person, as you know, and I will walk into a room and I will say hello and go and shake someone's hand, especially if I know that they're trying to ignore me, just for the sake of it. But also, any of those niggling little things, or someone uses the word you don't understand, just say it. Make yourself present. Talk and say, what can I do? What can I look out for? And I just think, and especially from the consultancy side of things, those higher up sort of medical professionals, they need to understand that these are people's lives, and you need to listen to what people are saying and understand that everyone is there for a reason, and they want to be talking and things like that. From a nurse point of view, they're much better, but it's still to an extent. Almost not sexist, that's the wrong word, but almost like it is focused purely on the woman.
Yeah,
but again, I'm feeling guilty for saying this now.
Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it? But you're doing what you're doing, what you're advising, which is to speak out and say something, and at some point maybe someone down the line won't. Maybe they won't be. They'll be their expectations will be managed a little bit better as to the waiting times and how you're going to feel, and maybe a bit, even if they're not offering support, advice on what to do to get the support you need. I mean, I think one thing Sarah might have mentioned, but I've written it down here as a note. It's just it strikes me as a really obvious thing, but why IVF clinics don't offer to introduce people to other people who are on exactly the same journey. Now, there might be a danger in that if one couple conceive earlier than another, it might put the other couple down. but at least if there is a miscarriage, or 2 or 3 couples are still waiting and waiting and waiting, at least they can talk to each other. I mean,
Yeah,
what do you see as a pro or a con in that situation?
I mean, the one thing I might do, had, retrospectively again, is only because it was really only my brother that I knew that had gone through it. And when you start to go through it, you realise obviously fertility issues affect 1 in 6 people, which I'm sure you know. And that's pretty big.
Yeah.
You sat there in your office, and there's 60 people in your office, 10 people in there are going to suffer with fertility issues, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people, and you don't, and I didn't realise that. I have to say, I didn't realise that it was that high.
No, it was a surprise to me too when I found it out.
Yeah, when I think one of the things I would do is do what Sarah did, and possibly just start my own Instagram account.
Yeah.
To simply not just to, I'm not a particularly massive fan of social media anyway, but not for any other reason, but more than anything, just to put my feelings down on paper, what happened today. Because I was worrying when I was reading through your questions. I was like, oh God, I'm trying to think of a specific situation where I was really like annoyed with what happened. But it was like, you get odd tidbits and everything, because you're kind of thinking about the information that's just been given, and I want to like talk to Sarah as we're walking out of the hospital, like, did we get all the information we needed? Have we got what we needed? So it was kind of funny, but to kind of document it myself. And I know that Sarah has found great support from the sort of fertility community through Instagram as well. And she's actually made a very, very good friend through that as well. And it's just something I just hadn't thought about, to be fair.
Yeah,
so I would probably do that. And to be fair, I probably would have maybe opened up to someone else as well, so that I could talk about this without burdening Sarah with it.
So would
you have enough to worry about?
I was just going to say, was your feeling a bit guilty and, this is my fault, and was there an embarrassment or like a hit on your masculinity, and maybe that's why you didn't talk to any friends? I mean, obviously I didn't. I mean, I was in another country, so that's not as easy, but
no. Well, there's a group of us that are really close. That. We've all known each other for a very, very long time. But it wasn't so much like a masculinity thing, but it certainly was a bit like, I don't work properly. It's not like, oh yeah, I tried to play the piano, but I wasn't very good at it, so I didn't bother. And you do, and like the fact that you just accept that you can't sing or something like that, it's actually like,
well, this is something I really
internal is not.
I should be able to do this.
Is not working, and there's the frustration side of it, and I'm always quite a positive, like, it'll be all right, it'll work eventually,
Yeah.
But then when you realise, like, the timings of waiting of things, you're just like, it's just a very strange feeling. It is a lot of guilt, actually. I think is like the main thing. It's not like an inadequacy or anything like that. It is a guilt that you don't work and someone else has to bear the brunt of the treatment, which is really hard.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to flag, actually, the fact that you only get one free chance on the NHS in Cornwall. Why is where you live, why are you selected geographically to get more help? I think it's utterly ridiculous.
Well, do you know what? I'd actually really like to talk to someone who has a say or a swing at structuring that, because there must be, I empathise and sympathise, but there must be some.
Yeah, tell them I'd like to work with them as well.
Yeah. Whilst I'm speaking up, it's something I'd be interested to hear more about, because obviously with What Med, there's been a bit more of a focus on IVF from an international point of view, and actually there are clinics in all over the place, Costa Rica, Barbados, India, Thailand, and it goes on, that very affordable, and they have reasonable success rates, and that was the other side of saying, well, if people are finding that they're not getting enough cycles or goes at the cycles, then someone like us could help facilitate them to another country where it's a bit more affordable. and they get a holiday at the same time to a degree. You know, I know it's a stressful time, but to go to somewhere quite picturesque and exotic might help things. I mean, it's funny. I spoke to a lady I worked with years ago, and they were struggling for a long time conceiving. They tried IVF a few times in Melbourne, Australia. It cost them a lot of money, and they just decided one weekend, you know, look, let's have a boozy weekend. I think it was like Rolling Stones. I don't know who it was. It was a rock band that they were there and they were camping on site, and they conceived with triplets, like naturally. Just they were drunk. They were having a great night. They were, you know, they'd gone through all of the troubles for years, and then triplets or twins. I just.
So what you're saying is ignore everything I just said and get drunk and go for
it. Yeah, absolutely. No, I've gone off on a tangent there, and as you know, I'm good at tangents.
No, but I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's just.
But yeah, coming back to learning why you only get one go, you know, it's that would be interesting to find out as to what is it.
I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand why somebody somewhere, some NHS office sits there and just goes, geographically, those people are only getting one chance, and these people are getting 5 chances. You know, there must be somewhere, some point.
Yeah, I don't understand it myself, but
there must be a point in the country where there's like a street where one side of it people get no chances on the NHS, and the other side of the street people get 3. There must be some kind of cut-off line somewhere, which, if you think about it to that detail, is absolutely stupid. It's just plain bonkers. Why should where you live determine your chances to have a family?
Well, I'll try and find out for you, and then you know, we'll see if we can have that conversation at some point in the future.
Drop me their number.
I'll drop the number and address and all of that. Yeah.
Ideal, lovely.
So look, you know, when the idea is that if there is someone else listening to this, and you know, guys also going, crikey, you know, that's me, or I think I'm about to go into this. You know, most people say stay clear from Dr. Google, but is there anywhere online that you've found, you know, something like a book or an article or a blog or something that you've gone back to a few times that you've found useful?
Not really. Dr. Google is the worst thing in the world. All I say is that, because, you know, you could have a splinter and you look on Google and they'll tell you to chop your finger off. Yeah. You know, it's the hypochondriac's Bible, and it drives me mad. I did try and read a few books, and without being offensive to some people, I'm not really a namby-pamby, overly sentimental person. I deal with things as I see them and as they come to me. And when things matter to me, I will make sure that I do everything I can to like this. You know, Sarah's an absolute world to me, and obviously having a daughter is going to be amazing, and I'm really excited about it. And that, you know, I really care about that. And I tried to read a particular book that was supposed to be a really light-hearted way to read it, and I thought, that's the one I'm going to read, because it's a bit funny. It's not going into all this rubbish that I think it doesn't work. And also the bloke's point of view in that book almost made it out as a stupid silly man, can't even, you know, stupid silly man, can't even knock one out in a pot. It was this ridiculous story about this bloke who's an absolute prat who couldn't even manage to do it in the place and get it into the pot and take it. Anyway, it was the most ridiculous book ever. I didn't even finish it because the bloke just pissed me off so much in it. He was such a wimp. But even things like that, it's just there isn't really a lot from the bloke's point of view. For IVF, there's loads of stuff online for like blokes going through the you're going to be a father type of thing. Some really, really funny stuff that's actually really factual. You know, even going a bit further, getting further ahead of myself. People who've got babies and things like that, and like learning about what to do from a father's point of view and things like that. You know, I think you should have certainly approached things with a certain sense of humour as well, which is really good, but also information. But actually, from a bloke's point of view, when it's your fault, there's very little out there. You know, there isn't very much that you can have a look. There's very factual stuff out there that will turn around and tell you exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Loads of that around, which is great. But actually saying how are you feeling, or how you're going to feel, or how you could potentially feel, or things to look out for, there isn't a lot out there. There might be. Maybe I've looked in the wrong places, but from somebody who's been through 2 cycles, I didn't find anything.
Okay. Well, maybe you can be that one.
So this is a good chance to push my new book that I've got coming out next month.
Well, all joking aside, I mean, it could be.
Well,
I mean, if it's that much of a
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. If we end up getting people contacting us saying, "I'd read it, I want it," well, you might just have to start at it.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
but then you're gonna have to learn to read and write, and that's obviously a challenge. So.
Oh no, I just ghostwrite it. It's fine. I don't need to do it.
Okay. Well, look, I think I asked really most of the things I think.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at my notes I made, just to see if there's anything else I wanted to say.
But yeah, look, I mean. Again, just hearty congratulations to you and Sarah, and
thank you very much.
Look forward to meeting and hearing her name, yeah. Well, look, we'll call that a day for Paul now. Thank you, Paul, for sharing. I mean, there's been some
I appreciate it. No problem at all.
I think for some people. But
it's actually quite nice to talk about it, and hopefully, somebody might be listening, and even if it's like 1 or 2 people and they listen and they
doesn't matter, does it?
They take anything from it. Yeah, I would, that would be great. But
and just out of interest, before we do close it off, if you had to go and pay for it, what were you looking at for that?
Sorry, how do you mean?
Once you've finished the cycle, I think they say that's it, that you've had your lot, or so you would have had to pay, is that right? Or contributed to the next go?
No, we would have had to have paid. And this kind of goes back to my point of, where you get the NHS provided service, that whoever chooses this amazing geographical location, which determines whether you're allowed children or not, also then says, okay, you live in Cornwall, which is actually in the entire country the strategically the poorest county in the country. You only get one go, so you can't have a family, which is quite stressful on your first go. So actually, you need to now pay £7,500 to have another go.
Okay.
When you turn around and say that, I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. I understand that there needs to be a cut-off point at somewhere, absolutely. But then again, you don't know how you feel when you get to that point. Yeah. I mean, we were,
and then not only the cost of it, but you've got all the waiting and all the emotional stuff, and then just life on top. Yeah.
I just to clarify, I do understand why there's the waiting. You have to. The woman's body has to redevelop. You have to get the right
expectation.
Yes, exactly. And after Sarah had the miscarriage, and we went to the second, we were lucky enough to have a frozen embryo. When we thought, okay, it'd probably be a couple of months, and obviously she had to feel ready, which is super important. She has to feel ready to do it as well. And then it was like 4 months, and you're just like, and you understand why, but then you're just like, no one prepares you for that 4 months of just, it just seems like a lifetime away. It was so weird.
I can't begin to. I can't begin to understand. I've not been through it.
Well, again, that's the thing. You and your wife are very, very lucky that how it happened for you naturally, as are so many other people, and they just don't realise. I think, and
you
one
take
thing
it for
that I have
granted.
noticed,
you just assume,
until something's wrong. You hear these. you hear these women talking, again, I'm going to sound really sexist now, women talking like they go, oh, I'm going to buy my house at 25 and I'm going to get married and then I'm going to have 2 kids by the time I'm 30. And you just think, yeah, everything else, no problem. Just, you have to be a little bit sensitive about the fact that it isn't that easy. And if it is easy for you, amazing. You know, that's really, really, really good that you can do that. But just have a bit of sensitivity especially to women that can't. And then also think about that if you're talking to that woman, that they've probably got a partner somewhere, whether it's a man or a woman, whatever, that is also going through that. So, you know, just...
Yeah, and I remember actually a friend of mine, in Melbourne, he sat with me and we'd had Charlie the first, and I think maybe I don't think we'd started trying for Elliot. But he sort of said to me, you know, unknown to him, he's like, so have you started trying yet? You know, come on, you know, seconds should be around the corner. I just had to say, that's like, just so you know, in the future, don't do that. Because if we'd been trying for a year, that would, you know, I might not be able to tell you, and B, if I do, you'll feel horrendous. So I'd just avoid that conversation in the future.
Oh, you're totally right. It's such a personal question.
Yeah.
You go up to somebody and go, so how much do you get paid now?
Yeah.
You know, it's such a weird question. And it, you know, it happened to be the fact that, and Sarah and I joked about this years before. Obviously, we've been together since college. We've been together a long time. Yeah. And we didn't really think about having kids until sort of 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. And she would always get this thing about, clock's ticking, you know, oh, have you done it yet? Oh, you don't want to be an old mother. And she always used to say, how do these bloody people know that we haven't been trying?
Yeah, right.
And that could be emotionally hurt. I mean, we both work with somebody who went through a huge amount of fertility issues, and actually in the end they ended up adopting.
Right.
And you could just tell every time someone at work would announce, oh, they're having a little one, you know, they were obviously ecstatic for them, but just inside you could just see they were just like...
You can sense it, can't you?
Yeah, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be pleased and announce pregnancies and things like that, but I think it's the people that go along... I mean, people are always saying to me, oh, when you're having your next one? I'm like, crikey, the person's not even here yet. It's so personal.
Well, actually, just another couple that I know that ended up, I think they had the first one on IVF, and then they, you know, I think they were, you know, I don't know I don't know the details of the story. They had one on IVF, and then they fell pregnant with twins after that. Naturally. And it's just, crazy. You know, I've heard these things that crop up, and obviously sometimes it just doesn't work at all, and people do adopt. Yeah, I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I know. Sorry, you were trying to wrap up, but another thing that catches you as well is that obviously Sarah is trying to enjoy her pregnancy as much as possible. Obviously with miscarriages and things like that, you know, it's going to be in the back of your mind a worry. I mean, a mother or a mother-to-be is always going to worry about her health and making sure everything's all right. Of course you are. But just going back to that side of things that, you know, if anything did go wrong, she has said things like, oh, God, I just don't think I could go through this again. This amount of time and this amount of things like that. And it's, for me, that's really scary. And I didn't really think about that, because I was just like, if nothing happens this time, you know, we would save the money and we'd have another go. But then I thought, oh God, yeah. If she doesn't want to go through all that again, is then she going to feel guilty for not doing it? And I wanted her to. And there's just such this emotional cycle of things that people just don't tell you about.
Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form. Not just from the woman's point of view, because obviously there's certain things I know Sarah just wasn't prepared for psychologically, but it's just from every point of view that there's this guilt, there's this waiting, there's this worry that you just no one tells you about, especially from a bloke's point of view. No one tells you about it.
Yeah, I mean that's why you're here. I mean, I just absolutely, you know, stunned at that. Really,
even like the conversation we had the other day, wasn't it? You did this podcast with Sarah, and no, not knocking you, but you were like, oh God,
Straight
yeah, I
to
should have spoken
Sarah
to you too.
rather than you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know. I did.
and
Yeah.
and I'm not saying that as a negative to you. You
No,
know,
no.
you know, I'm not.
Yeah.
But it is throughout the whole fertility thing, is that, you know, the focus is on women, and to a certain extent, absolutely rightly so. They're the ones that go through the growing and everything like
Just
that. You
please
know, they're
acknowledge
the ones
me.
that
Is all you're saying, really, isn't it? It's
yeah, absolutely. You acknowledge the fact that you, as a bloke, nothing changes for you in your body. Nothing changes for you, and all you're doing is thinking and worrying about all those changes that are happening to your partner. I know there are people out there that don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the ones, without blowing my own trumpet, people who do care and love their wife very much and hate seeing them go through it like this. It's very difficult. Even seeing close friends going through it as well. You know, it's difficult, and that you can't do anything. You can be absolutely there for them. You can do everything you can physically, but just that, I don't think they understand that worry. And thankfully, I've got an amazing wife who does understand that I was feeling guilty, and understand that.
Well, it's a
I
communication
was
thing as
trying to
well,
do
isn't
everything
it?
we
You
can.
know.
Yeah. But I could totally see how if there was a couple that didn't talk, where that could affect their relationship as well, which is the worst thing you want going into
Bottling it up and
yeah, exactly.
making assumptions. All of this just won't help. So the messages are: speak up, communicate.
Yeah, let them know you're there.
And
if you have got a chance to tell your story about something, do it, because hopefully I won't have to go through this again. But anybody who's listening to this and is about to go through it or has been through it again, I would say share your story as you're going along. Let other people know it's happening. Let other people,
a bit therapeutic as well.
Be able to. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying be all namby-pamby about it and start crying on your Instagram. But I'm saying to talk about your journey. You know, do it anonymously, so that just so other guys know that there's things to talk about. Even if if you're not worried about the medical side of things, even if you're like worried about your partner and you don't feel you feel you've got to that point where you can ask those questions. Just be open about it, I think.
Yeah. No, I sounds like good advice, and hopefully we'll hear from a listener at some point that found it useful or might make suggestions, and who knows, might want to write a book with you. But
no worries.
Never know where it comes.
I'm not cheap though, just so they know.
No. Just the way you dress.
No. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, your wife likes it.
All right then, brilliant. Well, that's been another episode of Patiently, and if you do want to get in touch with WhatMed, if you've got questions or suggestions for us, patiently.whatmed.com, make a contact with me there, and we'll speak to you in the future. And you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.